From its roots in ancient alchemy to its role in modern culture, alcohol presents a paradox, a substance that offers temporary relief while often veiling deeper truths. The alcohol sitting on your shelf has a secret origin tied to ancient mysticism and alchemy, a connection so profound it could change the way you see reality forever. What lies hidden in the term AL-kuhul might just blow your mind. The term AL-kuhul originates from Arabic, where it was initially used to describe a fine, powdered substance made from antimony, often applied to the eyes as kohl. This subtle essence was believed to purify vision, not just in the physical sense, but symbolically, enhancing one's ability to see beyond surface realities. Over time, AL-kuhul came to signify the essence derived through alchemical processes, specifically distillation. This essence, whether material or spiritual, represented a refined state, distilled from gross matter into a purified, potent form. In alchemy, AL-kuhul aligns with the principle of transformation, a core tenet of spiritual practices. Just as physical substances undergo distillation to extract their essence, the soul undergoes a similar process of refinement through spiritual practices. However, when this essence is misapplied, such as in the overuse of alcohol, it serves as a deceptive substitute for true spiritual transformation, mimicking the transcendence it was meant to inspire. The process of distillation, central to creating alcohol, mirrors spiritual alchemy. In material terms, distillation separates the pure from the impure, yielding a concentrated product. Mystically, this corresponds to the soul's journey through the trials of existence, emerging purified and closer to the divine. However, alcohol itself becomes a paradoxical metaphor in this context. While it is the product of a refined process, its consumption often leads to disconnection rather than union. The spiritual essence that alchemy seeks to distill is one of higher consciousness, clarity, and divine connection. Alcohol, as a physical substance, simulates this experience by altering perception and consciousness, but it remains a shadow of the true inner transformation achieved through practices like meditation, prayer, and self-discipline. Instead of uplifting the soul, alcohol often anchors it further into the material realm. In mystical traditions, the soul is likened to a flame or light striving to connect with its divine source. Alcohol, by its very nature, lowers the vibrational frequency of the body and mind, making it harder for the soul to resonate with higher spiritual realms. This disconnection acts as a veil, obscuring the soul's innate connection to the divine. The altered states induced by alcohol create an illusion of liberation. This fleeting sense of freedom is not true transcendence, but a temporary escape from the weight of material existence. Unlike meditative states, which elevate consciousness, alcohol's effects dull the mind and tether the soul to a lower vibrational plane, limiting its ability to access spiritual insight and intuitive clarity. Alcohol inhibits the pineal gland, often referred to as the third eye in mystical traditions, which is believed to facilitate spiritual insight and intuitive perception. Regular consumption dulls this sensitivity, severing the individual from their inner guidance system and divine connection. Spiritual practices aim to cultivate awareness, presence, and a heightened sensitivity to subtle energies. Alcohol, however, numbs these faculties, creating a barrier to spiritual progress. Over time, this loss of spiritual sensitivity can lead to feelings of stagnation, confusion, and disconnection from one's higher purpose. The very awareness that seekers strive to enhance is diminished, leaving them caught in a cycle of illusion and temporary gratification. Alcohol is also seen as a symbol of samsara, which is the cycle of suffering. In Eastern spiritual traditions, samsara represents the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, characterized by suffering and attachment. Alcohol epitomizes this cycle in several ways. Its consumption often arises from a desire to escape pain or seek pleasure, two driving forces that perpetuate attachment and suffering. The effects of alcohol are inherently cyclical. Temporary euphoria is followed by a crash, creating a craving for repetition. This mirrors the broader pattern of samsara, where fleeting pleasures are pursued despite their inability to provide lasting fulfillment. Just as the soul is trapped in the karmic cycle until it achieves liberation, The individual remains caught in a loop of indulgence and dissatisfaction perpetuated by alcohol. At its core, the human desire for intoxication reflects an unconscious longing for transcendence. The temporary relief and altered state provided by alcohol mimic the bliss and unity experienced in genuine spiritual connection. This yearning is a distorted expression of the soul's innate desire to return to its divine source. However, because alcohol is a material substance, it cannot fulfill this longing. Instead, it acts as a counterfeit, providing momentary relief while deepening the soul's disconnection from its true essence. The indulgence becomes a substitute for the inner work required to achieve lasting spiritual fulfillment, leading to dependency and a false sense of security. The path of spiritual awakening involves recognizing and redirecting this yearning toward practices that provide true transcendence. By turning inward and embracing disciplines such as meditation, chanting, and devotion, the seeker can access the bliss they unconsciously seek through external substances. This redirection transforms the cycle of addiction into a journey of liberation. Alcohol, in its essence and origins, represents a profound spiritual paradox. While its alchemical roots and symbolic nature tie it to concepts of refinement and transcendence, its misuse often leads to entrapment in lower vibrations. The teachings of spiritual masters consistently emphasize awareness, clarity, and inner connection as the keys to liberation, qualities that alcohol diminishes. To transcend the cycle of desire and illusion that alcohol perpetuates, one must recognize the soul's true longing for divine union. This realization marks the beginning of a transformative journey, turning the unconscious craving for intoxication into a conscious pursuit of spiritual awakening. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. Kindly hit subscribe and turn on notifications like this post and share it with anyone who needs to see it. Rumi, the great Sufi poet and mystic, often spoke of intoxication in his works, but his references were predominantly metaphorical, pointing to the divine ecstasy of spiritual union. In his writings, wine frequently symbolizes the love of the divine, an elixir that elevates the soul into realms of boundless joy and connection. He writes, "Be drunk with love, for love is all that exists." Rumi contrasts this divine intoxication with the false refuge of physical intoxication. He warns that while physical wine may provide a fleeting escape, it leads to spiritual numbness, clouding the clarity needed to perceive higher truths. For Rumi, true intoxication arises not from substances but from surrender to the beloved, God, which allows the soul to transcend worldly limitations. In Rumi's Sufi tradition, the metaphor of drunkenness often reflects the loss of ego and the embrace of divine unity. Physical alcohol, however, is seen as a pale and dangerous imitation of this state, tempting the seeker with a counterfeit experience that ultimately leads to deeper entanglement in the material world. Osho, a modern spiritual teacher, emphasized the importance of awareness and living in the present moment. For him, alcohol represents a significant barrier to mindfulness. He explained that alcohol dulls the senses and distances individuals from the reality of their existence, creating a false sense of liberation. Osho often remarked, "Awareness is the key to transformation. Alcohol destroys awareness, making it impossible to see the truth of who you are." Osho viewed alcohol as an anesthetic, a tool people use to numb themselves to the pain of life rather than confronting and transcending it. He taught that true liberation comes from turning inward, embracing the discomfort of growth, and expanding awareness through practices like meditation. For Osho, the path of mindfulness requires full presence, and any substance that clouds the mind undermines the seeker's ability to evolve spiritually. Paramahansa Yogananda, the revered yogic master and author of Autobiography of a Yogi, placed great emphasis on self, discipline, and the cultivation of spiritual clarity. He warned that alcohol compromises the mind's ability to concentrate and weakens the willpower necessary for spiritual practice. Yogananda taught that the human mind is naturally restless, like a pond stirred by the wind. Alcohol exacerbates this restlessness, making it harder for the practitioner to still the mind and access the deeper states of meditation required for divine communion. He stated, Intoxicants destroy the harmony of body and mind. They veil the inner light that guides the soul toward liberation. For Yogananda, the path to enlightenment depends on mastering the senses and cultivating inner strength. Alcohol, by distorting perception and diminishing self-control, becomes a significant obstacle on this journey. Ancient spiritual traditions often warned against the consumption of alcohol, viewing it as a hindrance to spiritual progress. In Buddhism, abstaining from intoxicants is one of the 5 precepts, highlighting its importance for maintaining clarity and ethical living. Similarly, Hindu scriptures such as the Manusmriti caution against alcohol, associating it with the loss of self-discipline and moral degradation. In Sufism, while wine is used metaphorically to describe divine love and spiritual ecstasy, physical wine is explicitly discouraged. It is seen as a distraction that pulls the seeker away from Tawheed, unity with God. The mystic Jalaluddin Rumi often employed the imagery of wine to represent the overwhelming love of the divine, but emphasized that true intoxication comes from spiritual practices, not substances. In Gnostic Christianity, the wine of the world is used as a symbol of attachment to material pleasures and distractions. Gnostic texts emphasize the importance of vigilance and purity, warning that the pleasures of the flesh, including intoxication, divert the soul from its divine purpose. The true wine is the gnosis, or spiritual knowledge that liberates the soul from the cycles of suffering. Alcohol occupies a paradoxical place in sacred texts, symbolizing both divine communion and worldly distraction. In the Bible, for instance, wine is a central element of the Eucharist, representing the blood of Christ and the promise of eternal life. However, excessive drinking is condemned, as in Proverbs 20:1. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. This dual symbolism reflects alcohol's capacity to either connect or disconnect the soul from its spiritual essence, depending on the context and intention behind its use. In alchemical and mystical traditions, wine often symbolizes the spiritual elixirs, a substance or state that elevates the soul. This wine is not a physical drink but a metaphor for divine grace, which intoxicates the soul with joy and insight. The danger lies in mistaking physical wine for its spiritual counterpart, seeking divine intoxication through material means. Divine intoxication, or spiritual inebriation, refers to the overwhelming bliss and ecstasy experienced in states of union with the divine. This state transcends ordinary consciousness, filling the soul with boundless love, joy, and wisdom. Mystics across traditions have described this experience as the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey. For example, Rumi speaks of being drunk on the wine of love, a state where the soul loses itself in the infinite ocean of the divine. This intoxication is not a dulling of the senses, but an awakening to the profound interconnectedness of all existence. Physical intoxication through alcohol is a shadow of spiritual intoxication. While the former numbs the senses and creates an artificial sense of euphoria, the latter heightens awareness and leads to authentic joy. True spiritual inebriation requires no external substances. It is the result of deep inner work and surrender to the divine. Mystics have long provided guidance on achieving spiritual intoxication through practices, such as meditation and devotional practices. Meditation is a way for quieting the mind to access the divine presence within. Devotional practices like chanting, singing, or prayer that fosters a sense of unity with the divine. Selfless service, such as acts of love and compassion, can be another way which helps with dissolving the ego and open the heart to divine grace. The Persian poet Hafiz beautifully captures the essence of spiritual intoxication. I am a hole in a flute that the Christ breath moves through. Listen to this music. Here, Hafiz conveys the sense of being utterly surrendered to the divine, allowing its grace to flow freely through the soul. It's time to lift the veil, to break free from the illusions, and to reclaim your divine connection. If you've stayed this far, you're ready for the next step in your spiritual journey. Subscribe now and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Together, Let's uncover the secrets they never wanted us to know.